Hello everyone, I'm Shannon McGarry from the Colden Corporation. I'm an occupational epidemiologist and I help keep people healthy and safe at work. I want to thank you for taking some time today to listen to my presentation about keeping healthy and safe from COVID-19 in these unprecedented times on the construction sites where you work. The guidance presented in this video is compiled from a number of agencies that have control over your work sites. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, the Departments of Health, and the New York State Department of Transportation. The governor has issued an executive order that permits construction in support of essential businesses, but only with the appropriate social distancing and cleaning and disinfecting precautions that we're going to review today. The projects that you are working on have been deemed essential. The goal of training is to give you the information and tools you need so that you can work safely. The construction that's covered in this presentation may be included in this list, but is not exclusive to this list. It covers all facets of bridge demolition, repair, and construction, and that includes using jackhammers, saw cutting, steel erection, and concrete placement. It includes all the road work that you've been doing for milling, paving, excavation, and drainage systems, setting up and taking down traffic control devices, as well as constructing cashless tolling equipment, and establishing communication buildings, gantries, and treadles. So what is COVID-19? COVID-19 is the coronavirus disease 2019. It's a new respiratory illness that's caused by a zoonotic coronavirus called SARS-CoV-2. The virus first emerged late last year in Wuhan, China, and is thought to have emerged from bats. I want to run through some of the potential health effects from COVID-19, which span a wide range, from mild to severe. The good news is that most folks that do get coronavirus or COVID-19 have very mild symptoms similar to a flu-like illness. In a small percentage of individuals, infections can lead to very serious consequences such as pneumonia, acute respiratory distress syndrome, and possibly death. The folks that are thought to be most contagious are those that are actually symptomatic, so have a fever, a cough, or short of breath. Some folks that are infected with the virus experience no symptoms at all. They're asymptomatic. According to the CDC, the symptoms of COVID-19 may appear in as few as 2 days or as long as 14 days after exposure, so a pretty wide range after you've been exposed to develop symptoms. The symptoms typically include the following three: a fever, which is defined as greater than 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit, or a cough, generally a new cough, or shortness of breath. Some infected individuals have experienced other symptoms much less frequently, but non-respiratory symptoms. Some folks have, for instance, had GI or stomach issues. I want to make sure that we're all referring back to the CDC for our information. There's a lot of information flying around now, but want to make sure that, again, we're going back to our vetted sources at the cdc.gov. There are two main routes of exposure to the SARS coronavirus. We can break both of these pathways, okay, so that's the good news. The main way that folks get COVID-19 is by inhalation, by inhaling large droplets within a short distance from folks. The second way is by hand to eyes, nose, and mouth contact. So we want to keep our surfaces clean, and we're going to talk a lot about that in a minute. Much less potential, we're not sure it's zero potential, but would be a hand to mouth through ingestion in the way some other viruses are. So we're going to spend some time now talking about how we can prevent those two routes from happening. First and foremost, we want to make sure you're monitoring your own health, making sure that if you have the signs and symptoms of COVID-19, that you're taking the appropriate action, which we'll go through shortly. Next, we want to make sure that we're practicing social distancing whenever and wherever we can when it's safe. We're going to run through some personal hygiene practices we're going to adopt universally. And then cleaning and disinfecting methods that we're going to start implementing. Preventing the spread is super important. At the outset, if you've tested positive or have been diagnosed with COVID-19, we want you to get medical attention and stay home. If you're living with or taking care of someone who has the symptoms of COVID-19 or tested positive, we want you to self-monitor and stay home. If you have the symptoms of COVID-19, call your doctor and stay home. We want to make sure you're contacting your supervisor before you return to work for instructions on a safe return. Instructions on a safe return are going to include information about how long, depending on whether you've tested positive or not, whether you've had symptoms or not, how long you need to stay out of work. That may be up to 14 days. Social distancing is going to be crucial in preventing the spread of COVID-19 on your job sites. To the extent feasible and safe, we want to make sure that you maintain a distance of at least 6 feet from other individuals. We want you to limit close contact for prolonged periods of time. Generally, that means greater than 15 minutes. We are fully understanding of the fact that maintaining a 6-foot distance during safety-sensitive activities may not always be completely achievable, but we've got to keep it in mind and think about creative ways to make sure we can distance ourselves from each other safely whenever possible. Site safety work practices that are going to be introduced include limiting the number of folks at the daily safety meetings to 10. If we need to hold multiple meetings, we will do so. The employee running the meeting is going to document who's there, sign on everyone's behalf. We're not going to be sharing pencils and papers and devices anymore. Meetings that involve safety-sensitive activities may exceed 10 people, but to the extent feasible, we're going to be practicing social distancing during these meetings. In addition, on the work sites, we're going to make sure that meetings, meals, and breaks are going to be staggered whenever possible to keep employees apart from each other. Vehicles are going to be kept to 1 employee whenever it's possible and safe. Exceptions would include more than 1 in a vehicle for setting traffic control devices and for mobilizing employees to sites that have limited vehicle parking. Hand hygiene, super important, just as important, maybe even a little more important than social distancing. Hand washing is and always has been the cornerstone of public health. Frequent hand washing with soap and water for 20 seconds is key to keeping yourself healthy and preventing the spread of COVID-19. Hand sanitizers are acceptable, but remember, they work best on clean hands. The best option is to wash your hands with soap and water whenever available. Hand sanitizer is a second choice. And for heaven's sakes, don't touch your face. It's a really easy thing to say. It's a hard thing to implement. Individuals touch their face hundreds of times a day without even knowing it. We want you to become fully aware of avoiding touching your face at this time. We're going to institute new cleaning and disinfection procedures on the job sites. Disinfecting wipes and a bleach solution and spray bottles can be used for disinfecting high-touch surfaces. So these are surfaces that many people come in contact with routinely. That would include hand tools, for instance. So hand tools must be cleaned at the beginning and the end of each shift. Any electronic and communication devices must be sanitized at the beginning and the end of each shift at a minimum. That would include sort of your radios and cell phones. We certainly want you to avoid sharing these devices. If the device must be shared, then it should be cleaned when transferred to each user. Heavy equipment and vehicle surface cleaning is also very important. Contacted surfaces within vehicles must be cleaned at the beginning and the end of each day and before each new operator enters them. So the high-touch surfaces in vehicles would include the steering wheel, shifter, door handles, belt buckles, armrests, and other surfaces. Use your common sense there. Cleaning materials have been provided and are in all of the company vehicles at this time. Portable restrooms. So the portable toilets are serviced routinely, but must also be disinfected using the bleach solution after each use. This has been supplied to the site, and we want to make sure every time we use the bathroom that we're disinfecting the surfaces in there. Each portable toilet will also be stocked with hand sanitizer, but again, making sure that as soon as you can, make sure you're getting to a hand washing station and wash with soap and water for 20 seconds. Personal protective equipment should not be shared among employees. So this would include your hard hats, high-vis vests, gloves, respirators, hearing protection, and safety glasses. Make sure you keep them with you, and if you have reusable PPE, make sure to clean it often, but at least at the end and beginning of the work shift and at breaks and lunchtime to help prevent the spread. Glove use. We think about gloves from a number of perspectives, but we want to make sure that you are at least wearing them when you're touching items that cannot reasonably be cleaned each day, such as traffic control devices, and that would include cones and signs and such. We want to make sure you're wearing gloves when you're working on aerial lifts and when you're performing tasks where tools and equipment must be shared and there isn't the opportunity to clean them in between. Respiratory protection. Okay, the CDC, again, that's where I really want you to get all your information, cdc.gov, currently recommends that the only people that should be wearing respiratory protection against COVID-19 are the people that are actively sick and the people that are taking care of them. Notification and reporting. If someone on your job site has tested positive or has been diagnosed with COVID-19, okay, a risk assessment is going to be performed to identify those individuals that had prolonged close contact with that individual, and they'll be notified and given further instruction. The departments of health are overwhelmed. Traditionally, it's been the Department of Health that has reached out to folks that have had prolonged close contact with a positive case. As time goes on, they may not be able to keep up, and it may be your employer that will contact you and give you further instruction, okay? Just because someone is diagnosed with COVID-19 on a job site does not mean that the job site will be closing. Again, a risk assessment will be performed, and individuals who've had close, prolonged contact with the infected individual will be given further instruction, which largely means they'll be sent home for a 14-day quarantine period, okay? And to the extent possible, medical confidentiality will be maintained. We cannot be giving out names. It's against the law. Some job sites are small enough, you might be able to intuit who it is, but for everyone's purposes, so that the affected individuals can stay home and focus on their health, let's keep confidentiality at the forefront here in the middle of this pandemic. A lot and a lot of concern, but we want to make sure that we're maintaining confidentiality whenever we can. So if you have the symptoms of COVID-19, we want you to contact your healthcare provider, stay at home, and let your supervisor know what's going on, okay? They're going to, behind the scenes, ask some questions and fill out some risk assessment forms and let you know when it is safe to return, okay? Depending upon whether you had symptoms or positive test, there's different things that are going to happen behind the scenes, but they're going to let you know when it's safe to return. We want to make sure that on all your job sites you're practicing social distancing and good personal hygiene and following safe work practices that we've identified here and those that are worksite specific to keep everybody as safe as possible. So to close, by following these site safety protocols and policies, we're going to be able to maintain a job site as safe as possible, keep the jobs running as long as possible. These measures are going to protect you, they're going to protect your colleagues and the community at large. If you have any questions, please direct them to your supervisor or safety officer. They'll get you the answers that you need. In this unprecedented pandemic, I think we're all going to have to take a step back and really rely on each other to look out for ourselves and keep everyone healthy and safe. Again, please follow what the CDC is saying at cdc.gov. Any special questions you may have related to the job sites, of course, you can always go to osha.gov as well. Thank you.